I'm going to teach you about multi-tenant applications, and in this video we're going to continue what we did from the last time, and we're going to upload it to Azure, and we're going to use Elastic database pools to give each one of our tenants their own database, completely separate. This code, there's a link in the description. You can download the GitHub repo. Let's start off by just taking a look at what we have so far here. We have a controller for adding products, doing CRUD operations for products, and we have a tenants controller, one method, which is a post method, and with that we create new tenants. And in that request, you can send this Boolean. You can say if you want the tenant to be isolated, or if we just want to keep their data in the central database. And here is our create tenant method. We build a connection string, and if we are saying to put this tenant on their own database, then we create a whole new database for them, and we apply any pending migrations so that they have an up-to-date schema. So actually I have this running now, so we can see that in action. There's no UI, so I've included a Postman, and you can use that. Okay, so my app is running, and my localhost URL is there. So step one, I'm just gonna create a new tenant, and I'm gonna put them on their own database. And there we have it. So it created a new tenant. So if we check our database explorer, there's gonna be another database there. And there it is. Now, if we deploy this to Azure and we try to create a separate database for one of our tenants, we're going to get an error because there's no code to generate a new database. Before we do any coding, we have to arrange things in our Azure platform. So in my Azure platform, I've already got a bunch of resources, but the place we need to go is to SQL Server. This is where we're going to go, and we're going to create an Elastic database pool. Right next to create database, you can see this new Elastic pool, and that's what we want. So let's go and click that. You'll select your subscription. Let's enter an Elastic database pool name. I'm going to call it my fun pool. We can just go with DTU basic. Next thing we got to do is create a database to get our app started off. So we'll go here to SQL databases. I'm going to create a database. Go up here, click create, give it a database name. I'm going to call this one Multi-Tenant App DB. And here where it says want to use SQL Elastic Pool, next you select the Elastic database pool, and that's all we really need to do. We just go here. So it's like exactly the same as creating a regular database. You just select the Elastic pool, and it will create the database within the pool, not as a standalone thing. Okay, deployment succeeded. So now if we go to our SQL databases, we have this one here, and on the pricing tier, it says Elastic Basic. So we can tell that, it's part of an Elastic database pool. It's not a standalone just by looking at that. So now that we've created an Elastic database pool and we have our initial database in there, let's go and let's create an app service so that we can publish our application to Azure. We'll go over here to app services and then click create, select web app, and just select your subscription and your resource group, and then we'll give the app a name. I'll just call mine Multi-Tenant App. The runtime, I'm working with .NET 8. If you don't see your service plan, then just try changing the region, because you have to select the same region as the service plan. On deployment, enable basic authentication, create that, and just give that a minute for it to deploy. Okay, deployment successful. Let's go to the resource. So right here, download publish profile, click that. I'll just save it to my desktop. Back to our app. I'm gonna stop running this now. I'm gonna import that published profile. So once you do that, you can click here, add a published profile. And the last option here, import profile, click next, and then browse, and go to wherever you downloaded the published profile, like the desktop, and click finish. Okay, so next we should set up the SQL Server database. Now, this isn't the only way you can do it, but this is just a quick and easy way. Select Azure SQL Database, click next, and it's gonna search for your databases. So I'm gonna select this one, my multi-tenant app DB. Once this thing turns green, click next. And here you'll just put in your database connection username, which is the same for the whole database server. And everything else you can leave as is, and then just click finish. And what this is going to do is it's going to set up the web app here it's going to set up the connection string. There's the other way that you can do it is you can go into settings and you can go into environment variables and you can copy it from your SQL Server database and paste it in there. But this is usually easier. Okay, so that finished. It automatically closed the window. It finished, and now it says connected here. So everything is almost ready to go. The next step, though, is that we need to grant our application these permissions within Azure to do things. So let's do that. Going back to the platform, the Azure platform, in the web app, go down here to settings, and this area right here is where we want to go, identity. So click that, and we're gonna want to turn status on, and then click save. Enable system assigned manage identity. All right, so once that's done, we click this button here, Azure Role Assignments. Up here, click this button, Add Role Assignment. Next, we got to select the scope. We'll just select Resource Group, and then my subscription, and the role we want is Contributor. It'll give you a message after like 1 second saying that it's complete, but this process, I don't know why, but it takes like 2 minutes. So now we can go back to Visual Studio. Okay, so let's start with installing the necessary NuGet packages. So right click on your project and go to Manage NuGet Package. Go here to Browse, and the NuGet package that we're looking for is called Azure.Resource Manager. And there's two that we need to install. We need to install this one, this first one. So select it and click Install. I accept. And then this one, Azure Resource Manager SQL. Install that one. Now we have all the necessary NuGet packages to do things in Azure. First thing we'll do is we'll add some new variables here in app settings. So new group here called Azure, and then these are the 4 variables that we're going to need. Elastic pool name, and then these other 3, you'll need your resource group name, SQL Server name, and your subscription ID, all of which you can find in the portal platform. So save that. Next, let's go into the code, the tenant service. First, we're going to need to add the using statements at the top for our Azure resources. One thing that we should do is make this method asynchronous. In the previous example, I was just trying to make things as simple as possible. Now that we're going to be waiting on Azure resources to spin up, some of these responses are going to take a while, so you should always use asynchronous programming, but in this case, now we should especially do it. So let's go to our interface and let's make this asynchronous. So let's do like this, a task. Let's return a task for the create tenant, and then in our service, let's also do that. And don't forget to put async here. So this allows us to use the await keyword whenever we do something that might take a while. Okay, so also in our controller, go to the tenants controller and let's put the await and async task and wrap that. Okay, so now that our create tenant method is asynchronous, let's first inject web host environment, because this local host code is still useful. We still want to keep it. This is what we want to run when we're in development mode, when we're just doing things locally. And then we want to do different code for when we're in production. So by injecting iWeb host environment, we can check if we're in development or in production. So let's do that check right here. I suppose we should do that after this. So this is where we should put that. So I'm going to do if underscore environment is development. And if it's development, then this is the code that we want to run. Okay, so here's our refactored code. If we're isolating our databases, then we will create a scope for the application DB context. And we're using our modified connection string here, so we're pointing at a database that does not exist. If we're in development mode, then we just apply the pending migrations. This is going to generate a new database, and that's all you need to do if you're in local host mode. But if you're in the cloud, if you're on Azure, you need to pass in all these credentials. You need to get this SQL Server object. This line right here is really the most important. This is where we're grabbing our SQL Server object, and with that we can create databases, we can update databases, delete them, whatever. So this line here is where we're doing that. We're taking our SQL Server object and we are creating or updating a database. The database name we're giving is this DB name that we're constructing up here, which is just the main database name, a dash, and then the ID of the tenant. And then we are applying any pending migrations to that database, that new database, so that its schema is exactly the same as all of the other databases in our pool, in our whole application. So that's all that there is to it. If everything goes according to plan, if we get down here, then we take that tenant info and we save that to the base database, so the central database. That's the only database where the tenant table exists. And finally, we save the changes. If anything goes wrong, we've wrapped everything in a try-catch block, so it'll throw an exception and we'll see some kind of error message. And then we return the tenant, and that's it. So with this code, hopefully, fingers crossed, things will work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just run it real quick, just locally, to make sure that we don't have any errors. Let's just go and test, make sure everything still works. So I'm going to do, instead of beta, I'm going to create Zeta Corporation. Send that, and let's see. Yeah, seems to be working. Let's check our local database. Yeah, got a new database there for Zeta. Okay, well that satisfies me. Let's go ahead and publish now. So yeah, let's go back here. Let's go to publish. We've already set up the whole publish profile. We've got our SQL database connected. Our connection string is already there. So let's go ahead and publish. Okay, so let's go to Postman. Again, we do not have a user interface, so we're just going to do things with Postman. I'm going to replace this first part here, the domain, with the domain of my hosted application. And I'm going to point at the tenants API, and I'm going to attempt to create a new tenant on their own database. Sending now. This is going to take probably 20 or 30 seconds actually, because we're spinning up new resources in Azure. Obviously, if you're going to design a UI, you'll want to provide some feedback. It worked. We have our connection string here, and if I go to my SQL Server Explorer and I refresh my databases here, I can see that we have another database. Now let's go to our Azure platform again, and let's go to SQL databases. Well, we don't see it here yet. Maybe if I click refresh. There it is. So we have it, and you'll see again here pricing tier, it's in the Elastic database pool. If I went to my all resources and I go to my fund pool and I go to, I think, settings, yeah, if I go to configure, you can go to databases and you can see them there too. So we've done it, folks. We have absolutely done it. We have published our multi-tenant application to Azure, and we can create tenants on their own database. Let's create another tenant, Beta Corporation. Let's put them on their own database as well. Okay, so now we have another tenant. We can go and we can create some products and put the tenant key here as a header, and then you can send up a product to create for them. So create one for Beta, and then we'll create one for Zeta. And they're gonna have a clown suit. Okay. And if we go and we obtain our products, let's get the list of products from Zeta as if we are Zeta Corporation. And there it is. It only returns the products that are in Zeta's database. Check out our website, aspnano.com. This whole article, this whole tutorial, we have a written version here, and there's also the whole source code, the finished project. You can download that free from our GitHub, and the starting project. So right where I started the video here, you can download that repo as well and follow along. This is our project, and this will save you a lot of time, especially since we have now released it as a CLI tool. So you can generate projects, generate multi-tenant applications to your own specification. We've taken care of all the architecture. It's very well documented. There's 3 different UI options. There's MVC Razor. We've got Web API for Vue or React front end. And so yeah, definitely check us out there. Hit subscribe, and I'll make some more videos. Take care. Hope you learned something. Till next time.